Hi, Karen Hadley here from stampingbees.co.nz, an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. Welcome back. Now this week I would like to share with you a card that I made for a dear friend whose birthday it was. I decided to use a couple of my favourite stamp sets, Fanciful Fragrance and Very Versailles. I just love those stamp sets and there's so many things you can do with them. This is the card I made. Now there's a few layers to it, but it's not that difficult and I'd like to share with you how I made this. So I really do hope you enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I put a video out each week, and like and make any comments that you'd like to share with me. Fantastic. So let's turn the camera over and get started. These are the two stamp sets, Fanciful Fragrance and Very Versailles. Beautiful script, perfume bottles, flowers, fleur-de-lis, beautiful words, absolutely stunning. So as I say, a couple of my favourite stamp sets. I do have quite a few favourite stamp sets, but these ones are particularly one of my favourites. So let's get started. I'll just show you the card again. That's the card there. So the base is just crumb cake. I'll put all the measurements on the screen. So we're starting off with just a crumb cake card base, and then we have a mat of early espresso, and then we have Blushing Bride for the mat that we're going to be working on today. So let's start with the embossing. Now I've used these gorgeous new glitter white embossing powder. There's black and white, just beautiful, just beautiful. So I will stamp the perfume bottles. Now I'll do a couple of things on this Blushing Bride cardstock before I run it through the embossing folder. I'm just inking up. Now before I stamp on it though, I will use my little embossing buddy. Now this just helps any extra bits of glitter not to adhere to your cardstock, and you get little bits of embossing powder in places that you don't want. So let's nice coating of Versamark, which is the sticky clear ink that the powder will stick to. Now I just want that bit of powder there. Just want that on the bottom there. Good press. So we'll pop that over there. And I usually just like doing it like this inside a container so that I don't make a mess. These things always seem to go everywhere. So just shake off any excess and then just use your heat gun on heat setting 2 to heat that. Now I've already done one of these for you ahead of time. So that's been heat embossed, and look at that gorgeous glitter in that white embossing powder. Don't know if you can see that shine, but just stunning. So the next thing we'll stamp on the top here before we emboss it. And I have used the leaf here, and I have used crumb cake, which I had here a second ago. Here it is. Now I did stamp this off. I didn't want it too dark, so inked it up. Good ink, and then just make sure I've covered that over. Stamp that off and then just pop down here. Now I have used the script embossing folder. It is a 3D embossing folder, so I will just show you that Stampin' Up have put out this new folder. I think I've shown you one of my other videos for the embossing folders. This is the embossing folder here. Now, even though I'm going to pop this in sideways because the script goes this way, so I'm popping that in sideways. The thing to remember is not to feed it through your machine that way. You must always feed these 3D embossing folders in spine first. So it's just going to be fed in on top of the plate, and then just with this blue cutting and embossing plate here. So that's going to go through the machine, and it's going to come out looking like this. So what I've done next is I wanted the script to show up a little bit more. So I have used a sponge, and I've used some of the Whisper White, and I have used a bit of crumb cake as well to just go over. Now, what did I do with my crumb cake? I just had that right in front of me. I keep losing it because the colour has actually faded a bit on here, and I've put that on there, but sometimes I just don't recognise it straight away. So I've used white just to bring it up a little. Now, all I've done, don't press too hard, just swipe it across sideways like this, just lightly. Don't press down into the card, just go across. So basically you're just getting the ink on the script. Now, the reason I used the white first is because I didn't want the words to be too dark. I just wanted them to be a little highlighted. So I put a little bit of Whisper White on first, just so that when I put the crumb cake on, it wasn't going to be too overwhelming. Okay, and then I will use crumb cake. Now, with this, I do ink up and then just dab off, because once again, I'm not wanting it to be overwhelming. I just want it to be light. So just dab off before you run it across the words. And as you can see, I'm just with one motion going from left to right. And as you can see, those words now are starting to pop up. That beautiful script. Okay, and then I have just gone around the edge with the same crumb cake. Just to give it that little bit of edge. Doesn't have to be too exact. So that's the front coming along there. Oops. The next thing is we will glue that to the early espresso. Onto the mat there. Get rid of that. The next thing I'll do is I will just pop a bit of tape on the back, because I'm going to, this is how I like to stick my ribbon on. And it just means you don't waste any of the gorgeous ribbons. It doesn't need to go all the way around the back, because no one obviously is going to see the back of the card. And I've got my trusty pick tool. I think in every video I do one little sentence that I get my letters or my words mixed up. So that was it then. Okay, I have used this beautiful new scalloped lace trim. Just that vintage look. Okay, so I've just popped it there just above the perfume bottles. Don't want to cover them up. There we go. And then the next thing we will be doing is using the dimensionals to pop it up on the card. My rule of thumb, well, I like using dimensionals anyway, just to give that interest of dimension, but generally speaking, if I have ribbon behind something, I like to just pop it up on dimensionals so that the edges are not poking up with the thickness of the ribbon. So that's just my sort of preference, and I use that as a sort of a rule of thumb when I'm creating my card. But it also, as I say, I like having that dimension in the card for that point of interest. So I am going to pop that onto the card base. Oops, there it is. And like so. Now I have used the beautiful pressed petals paper here. It's got the burlap background, just gorgeous. So many beautiful sheets in here, the specialty paper. Now I've just used the strip here. I've cut the strip off to use these gorgeous daisies, and I have just use that. So we're going to pop that. I might cut that down just a little bit to here, so that flower is closest to the edge. So that's going to go there, and I'm just going to cut that up. And we will glue that on. As I say, it looks difficult with the different layers, but it's actually not that hard at all to make this card. Just a few different elements, that's all. So we'll pop that on there. Ready to go. Now the next thing we'll do, I'll just pop that over there, and I've got some scrap paper, and we will make the sentiment. Now I have used this gorgeous stamp to pop the sentiment in the middle. There we go, isn't that beautiful? Very old worldy. And then I have used early, so that was crumb cake, and I have used early espresso for the sentiment. And have a beautiful day. And I'll just pop that in the middle, like that. Whoops. And then I've actually fussy cut that out. So when you're fussy cutting, oops, a little bit of stuff stuck on there. When you're fussy cutting, remember to move the paper when you're cutting, not the scissors. You get a much more accurate cut, and it is much easier. So I just thought you didn't really want to watch me cutting paper. So I did fussy cut that. It looks as though it would be a little bit complicated, but it's quite easy to cut out. And then I have popped that up also on dimensionals. A few dimensionals in this card. Trusty pick tool. There. Have a beautiful day. Now the other thing I did is I had another strip of the daisies, and I have cut out, as you can see, I've cut out the couple of the pink daisies from the strip, and I have popped them up also on dimensionals. There's one. Oh, the other one might have gone west. Hope not. Well, you'll get the idea with this one anyway, that's fine. So I've just used a little bit of one of these small, I'll find it once I've finished filming, I'm sure. But I'll just pop them both up on here. Once again, just adds a bit of interest. Now the other thing I've done, or the glitter of course, like the glitter, is I have just added some Wink of Stella to the white daisy, and just to match in really with the embossing powder. And there's nothing wrong with a bit of glitter, of course. And the other thing that no card of mine would be finished without is the bling. Now these are the petal pink rhinestone gems, which of course matches perfectly with the petal pink paper. And the rule of thumb is always odd numbers when you're adding something like this. It's apparently more pleasing to the eye. And also, if possible, to make it in a sort of triangle, if that also is more pleasing to the eye. So we're nearly finished. We just have to do the inside. So we have the perfume stamp and the crumb cake. So I've also done this on the envelope. So I've stamped inside the card with these perfume bottles stamping off, and I also have done the envelope with the same perfume bottles. I like to have the envelope a little bit of interest as well. So we'll just stamp these off. The crumb cake. And then that, just shut that up. This gets glued on to the other early espresso mat. And popped in the inside of the card. So as you can see, it's actually not that hard, but absolutely beautiful. I just love pinks and browns together. There we are. Done. So I'll show you this one because it's got the second flower on. So glitter, stamp Wink of Stella on the flowers, gems, glittery embossing powder, just makes for a stunning, gorgeous card that any girl would like to receive. So I hope you enjoyed, and come back next week for my next card. And any questions, please do send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining me.